This is not just a piece of copper alloy struck at the Denver Mint. This is a messenger from 1964, one of the most turbulent, transformational years in modern American history. The year after a nation was shaken by tragedy. The year industrial America strained to meet overwhelming demand for circulating coinage. The year the mint produced billions, yes, billions of Abraham Lincoln 1 cents to keep commerce moving during a national coin shortage. And yet, among those countless billions, a microscopic fraction so small it may as well be a whisper emerged with subtle traits, minting quirks, and survival mysteries that elevate them into a realm collectors rarely discuss out loud because someone 9-6 for D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cents are believed rumored. Whispered, studied under magnification to hold anomalies that push them beyond rarity, beyond scarcity, into the territory of coins worth millions of dollars. But before we reach the heart of that possibility, let's step directly into the world that created this coin. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine 1964, the Denver Mint thunders day and night. Mechanical presses pound with the force of miniature earthquakes. Sheets of copper alloy are fed through cutting machines, punched into gleaming blanks, heated, cleaned, and shoved into the jaws of coining presses that slam the obverse and reverse dies together with astonishing violence. In the middle of all this chaos, errors happen. Subtle imperfections, die cracks, misalignments, unusual polish marks. Hardened die steel grinding ever so slightly against plankets, leaving behind fleeting fingerprints of the minting process. You now picture one particular die. Maybe it was overused. Maybe it cracked microscopically. Maybe a technician polished it a little too aggressively during a rushed shift. That die strikes a handful, just a handful of Abraham Lincoln 1 cents with a look, a texture, a presence that feels different. Coins that slip into circulation quietly, unnoticed, destined to disappear into pockets, drawers, and memories until decades later. Someone with a keen eye and a collector's intuition picks one up and feels that unmistakable electric jolt. Something's different here. What makes the 1964 D Abraham Lincoln 1 cent so captivating to seasoned collectors? It's not age alone. Millions of coins from the 1960s survive. It's not simple nostalgia. Though the nostalgic pull is powerful, it isn't enough on its own. The magic lies in the tension between abundance and impossibility. A year known for massive mintage, yet hiding variations so scarce, so elusive, that even veteran numismatists speak of them with quiet reverence. Consider the subtle design elements of this coin. On the obverse, you have Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, his gaze forward, his expression calm but determined, the curvature of his coat, the sharpness of his beard lines, the faint, almost ghostly texture of die polish running under the right light. Then, to the right of Lincoln's profile, the unmistakable Denver Mint mark, the small yet powerful D. A simple letter, yes, but a letter that carries the weight of Midwestern American industry, wartime production history, and decades of collecting intrigue on the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial stands resolute, engraved with a precision that feels almost sacred. The columns, in such shadows, roofline details, all of it crafted in the era when die engraving was still a deeply personal craft. Look closely enough, and you might even catch the tiny silhouette of the seated Lincoln statue within the memorial, a detail so delicate, many collectors overlook it entirely. But where the heart starts racing, where curiosity sharpens, is when you begin hearing the stories, the sightings, the unconfirmed discoveries that turn a perfectly ordinary 1964 D into something that sends shockwaves through the collecting world. For example, there, are whispered accounts of 1964D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent struck on. Leftover bronze plankets intended for earlier year production cycles. Plankets that somehow didn't get culled. Others speak about unusual die rotations. Off-metal strikes. Ultra-sharp early dice-date coins with mirrored surfaces that appear almost proof-like. Despite Denver not striking proofs in 1964, then there are the anomalies that hint at even stranger origins coins displaying doubled features around the date or liberty. Coins with rim distortions, coins whose surfaces shimmer with a texture seen only on experimental or transitional pieces. Does every rumor true? No, but enough collectors have encountered strikingly unusual pieces to keep the conversation alive and to keep the stakes incredibly high. Because when even one of those anomalies is authenticated, when even a single 196 for D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent surfaces with an undeniable minting irregularity, it becomes a treasure worth millions of dollars. And here's the part that sends chills racing across the arms of veteran collectors. Many of the rarest variations of the 196 for D might not yet be discovered. They're out there possibly sitting in old jars, old dressers, forgotten bank bags, or tucked away by someone who unknowingly preserved a miniature masterpiece. What if one is hiding in your collection right now? Let's explore why the potential value skyrockets into the realm of legends. First, scarcity. When billions of coins are created, the chance of a rare anomaly surviving in pristine condition becomes microscopic. Most coins were spent, scraped, dented, and consumed by daily life. Only the luckiest pieces escaped circulation. Only the most blessed survived untouched, unscathed, unbent by time's second, historical gravity. 1964 is a cornerstone year deeply connected to political transition, economic tension, and cultural transformation. A coin that carries the energy of such a pivotal moment automatically gains emotional and collector prestige. Third, collector psychology. There is a primal fascination with finding rarity in the ordinary. Holding a coin everyone else dismissed, only to discover it's the one coin that defies the odds. This strikes at the core of human desire. It's the same thrill as uncovering a lost map or spotting a hidden doorway in a familiar house. Fourth, the power of mystery. Because high-value anomalies are the 196 for D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent are so rare and often so misunderstood, every potential discovery feels like opening a sealed vault, yet the coin becomes a story. A symbol, a monument to luck, timing, and awareness. For now, look again at your mental picture of the coin. See the luster, the fields, the devices. Look at the Denver Mint mark. Slight variations in its texture, depth, and angle can hint at different die states or production quirks. Examine the areas where doubling might appear, the date, the word liberty, the motto. Check the rim for unusual thickness. Skin the reverse for faint die cracks or breaks around the memorial. Under 10x magnification, does the surface shimmer with a frost mirror contrast not typical for circulation strikes? Every tiny detail matters. Every small anomaly is a doorway into possibility. Collectors who specialize in this era know the truth. The rarest treasures are rarely advertised. They're discovered. Found by people who look just a little longer, just a little deeper. People who don't assume common coins are common forever. There is something profoundly humbling about holding a 196 for D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent in its highest possible condition. Mint state luster spreading like sunrise across polished copper. Lincoln's cheekbone glowing softly. The reverse shining with a strength that defies the 60-plus years. This coin has survived. A coin like that is no longer an object. It's a survivor, a messenger, a key. But we're not done yet, not even close. Because there is one more layer of intrigue, one more hidden twist that collectors rarely discuss over the past decades. Experts have quietly speculated about undocumented variations coins produced during transitional periods between die replacements, struck with hybrid characteristics belonging to two different die states. These transitional anomalies are notoriously hard to identify, but when they appear, they command immediate and intense attention. Now imagine holding a 196 for D. Abraham Lincoln one. Scent created during that microscopic window, just a few minutes of production time when one die was near death and another was freshly installed. Imagine your coin shows hints of both. A hybrid, a transitional ghost. A coin like that could rewrite the estimated value of this series entirely, and if one has surfaced once, it can surface again. This is why collectors never dismiss the 196 for D. This is why they check every detail, even when logic says not to bother. Because logic has never unearthed a treasure. Instinct has. Persistence has. Curiosity has, so the question hangs in the air like a challenge. Are you holding just another 196 for D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent? Or are you holding a multi-million-dollar anomaly disguised as pocket change? That's the power of this coin. It sits quietly in collections, waiting for someone with eyes sharp enough, patient enough, determined enough to notice what others missed. The undiscovered treasure. The phoenix hidden among the ashes of ordinary copper. If you search, and if you study, and if you look with the reverence this coin deserves, you just might be the next collector to uncover a legend. And here's the final twist, the part that keeps advanced collectors awake at night every year. Someone finds a coin they weren't supposed to find. A coin expert swore no longer existed. A coin dismissed as a myth until it was in single quotas. So ask yourself this, and ask it carefully. What if the most valuable 1964 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent in the world hasn't even been discovered yet? And what if it's waiting, right now, in your own hands? Czech said, imagine, for just a moment, that you are holding an unassuming copper-plated disc. A small artifact no bigger than the nail on your thumb. Yet behind its quiet surface lies a mystery that has tormented collectors for more than 3 decades. It is a 1989 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent, an ordinary year, a familiar design, a coin billions of Americans touch without a second thought. But hidden within those billions lurks a whisper, a rumor. A possibility so electrifying it sends a chill down the spine of every seasoned numismatist who dares to dream. What if, buried in the avalanche of circulation, there exists a 1989 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent born without its Philadelphia mint mark? An anomaly so rare, so improbable, it could be worth millions of dollars. This isn't just a story about a coin. It's about the thin line between everyday change and extraordinary opportunity. It's about the intoxicating thrill that keeps every serious collector awake at night. And it begins with a tiny blank space and absence on the surface of one of the most familiar coins in American history. Close your eyes and picture it. The obverse, the strong, stoic profile of President Abraham Lincoln, sculpted with the dignity and depth only the United States Mint could achieve. The soft curvature of his coat, the subtle fold beneath his jaw, the delicate relief capturing the solemn gaze of a man whose legacy shaped a nation. And right beneath that, where your eyes instinctively search for a mark of origin. Nothing, a silent space. A void where the mint's signature should be. How does something like this happen? Why does it happen? And more importantly, what does it mean for those lucky enough to uncover such a treasure? The Philadelphia Mint in 1989. produced mountains of Lincoln 1 cents. They poured out of the presses in a relentless flood of copper-plated zinc, precision-engineered, standardized, quality-checked. And yet, numismatic history tells us something sacred. No system, no matter how perfect, is immune to the unpredictable dance of mechanical variables. Dies crack, marks fade, machines misalign. A mint mark tiny, delicate, almost invisible to the casual observer can vanish under the right circumstances. And when it does, a legend is born. The very idea of a 1989 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark triggers something ancient in the collector's heart. It speaks to rarity. It speaks to fate. It speaks to the intoxicating possibility that somewhere in the chaos of circulation, one coin escaped the factory floor wearing the wrong face, or rather, wearing less of one. A whisper instead of a signature. And whispers, as collectors know, are often the most valuable clues. Imagine finding such a coin today. Imagine sifting through a jar of forgotten change, perhaps inherited from a parent or discovered in the back of a desk drawer, and spotting that blank space. Your breath catches. Your pulse climbs. You tilt the coin under a lamp, then under sunlight, then beneath a magnifier, desperately trying to confirm what your intuition is screaming. In that moment, the world shrinks to the size of one Abraham Lincoln 1 cent. Every detail becomes a universe. The crisp rim, the alignment of the date 1989, clear and confident. The ghostly absence of a mint mark. And the reverse, dominated by the proud columns of the Lincoln Memorial, each line standing sharp like the pillars of history itself. But here's the most alluring part. Rarity alone does not create treasure. Rarity must meet mythology. It must meet desire. And the numismatic world is powered by a very specific kind of desire, one born from scarcity, speculation, and the hope of discovering what no one else has. The 1989 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent sits at the intersection of those forces. Ask yourself, why do we collect? Why do we hunt? Why do we chase anomalies hiding in plain sight? Because each one carries a story, a narrative, an emotional charge. A collector doesn't seek a coin. A collector seeks meaning. And a coin like this, if found, if verified, if authenticated, would ignite an explosion of excitement in the market unlike anything seen in decades. Some will say it's impossible. Others will say it's unlikely. But then again, history is full of unlikely survivors. The 1943 Browns 1 cent, the 1969 double die, the 1980 to transitional varieties. Every era produces a miracle, often discovered by the person least expecting it. And doesn't that thought alone create a thrill worth savoring? Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Try to imagine how many coins you've touched in your lifetime. Hundreds of thousands? Millions? Now imagine that somewhere within that ocean, one coin, just one, might have been $1 million outlier. And you may have unknowingly passed it along for a cup of coffee or a gallon of gas. It's a humbling, almost haunting idea. But it also sparks the ultimate collector's dream, that the next coin you examine might change your life. The allure of the 1989 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is not just the possibility of wealth. It's the feeling of being part of something bigger, a treasure hunt stretching across generations, connecting collectors in an endless chain of curiosity and passion. When you study a coin like this, you're not just examining metal. You're touching time. You're holding a slice of 1989, a year of shifting politics, cultural evolution, and economic transformation. A year when the mint pushed millions of coins into circulation, unaware that one tiny omission could one day ignite imaginations across the country. Think about the craftsmanship behind every Abraham Lincoln 1 cent, the engravers who sculpted Lincoln's portrait, the engineers who designed the dies, the technicians who oversaw the presses. Thousands of decisions, adjustments, calibrations, every step vulnerable to human error or machine wear. That vulnerability is where anomalies are born, and anomalies are where legends begin. Picture yourself now with a magnifying lens hovering over that date 1989. Imagine the texture, the sheen, the tiny imperfections that tell you this coin has lived a long life, journeying through hands, pockets, drawers, vending machines, maybe even decades in darkness before reemerging. And now, after all that time, it arrives in your palm asking a single question. Are you the one who will see what others overlooked? There's something deeply poetic about that. Collectors know that the difference between an ordinary coin and a priceless one often comes down to a detail smaller than a grain of sand. A doubling on a digit, a misaligned die, a missing mint mark. These micro-variations carry macro value because they represent the rarest phenomenon in numismatics, the mistake that survives scrutiny. And survival itself becomes the story. If a 1989 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark has indeed slipped into the world, then every jar of coins, every estate sale, every forgotten dresser drawer becomes a potential archaeological site. Your hands become tools of excavation. Your eyes become instruments of discovery. And that is where the true excitement lies. Collectors who uncover legendary errors don't just own a rare artifact, they become part of the lore. Their names echo in forums, auction catalogs, whispered conversations at coin shows. Imagine being the individual who uncovers the first confirmed no mint mark anomaly for 1989, a discovery powerful enough to command front-page attention in the numismatic world. That coin wouldn't just be rare. It would be mythic, revered, pursued, a treasure worth millions of dollars not only for its scarcity, but for the story behind it. Because in numismatics, stories create value. Stories create legacy. So let your mind wander. Imagine where such a coin could be right now. In a forgotten cigar box? Hidden among decades of pocket change? Resting quietly in a safe deposit box without its owner ever noticing a missing mark? Or could it already be in your home, waiting for you to look just a little closer? Feel the weight of that possibility. Let it remind you why you collect. Why you search? Why you care? Every coin has a heartbeat, faint, metallic, almost imperceptible. But some hearts beat louder, calling out across time. The 1989 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is one of those mysteries that invites the bold, the curious, and the passionate to step forward. And here's the final twist. The cliffhanger every collector secretly loves. If one such coin exists, then there could be more. Not many, not dozens. Maybe only a handful. Maybe only one. But that sliver of uncertainty, that razor-thin chance is what keeps the greatest discoveries alive. So tonight, when the house grows quiet and the world slows down, take out your coins. Examine each one with fresh eyes. Look for what others ignore. Let your intuition guide you. Because the next great numismatic treasure may not be sitting behind glass at a museum or locked away in a billionaire's vault. It might be sitting in the palm of your hand. And if you find it, your story becomes part of numismatic history forever. Because sometimes the rarest treasures don't shout. They whisper. Picture the year 1991. America was shifting technologically and culturally. Confidence in the new decade was slow, cautious. and quietly building much like the coinage struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And though Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint mark, the 1991 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent carries an aura different from its predecessors. It's as though the mint itself, in the quiet hum of machinery and the metallic scent of thousands of blankets, unknowingly released a handful of anomalies into the bloodstream of American commerce, and the question lingering behind every collector's ear is strangely simple, yet deeply unsettling. What if one of these coins worth millions of dollars today passed through your hands years ago, and you never even noticed? Let's move closer. Imagine the coin between your fingertips, copper-plated zinc, struck with the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln that Victor David Brenner etched into American memory back in 1909. But this isn't just any strike. Look closer than the casual eye ever would. The fields gleam with faint machine lines, subtle but telling. The cheekbone of Lincoln carries a softness unique to certain die states from this era. And then, where a tiny letter should sit, nothing, pure emptiness. A blank space where a mint mark might appear on other denominations. A silence on the surface that invites infinite speculation. Now you might be thinking, but Philadelphia coins don't have mint marks. True, but that doesn't diminish the mystique of this piece. In fact, it amplifies it, because in a decade of growing automation, die longevity issues, and experimental maintenance procedures, variations in strike pressure, die polishing, and blanket quality produced micro-oddities that today's high-end collectors chase with a kind of feverish enthusiasm. Transitional errors, misaligned dies, overpolished features, missing design elements, each one a portal into a moment when the mint's immaculate choreography slipped, just slightly. And the 1991 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent stands at the center of that webbed it why. Because unlike later years, where tighter quality control reduced dramatic anomalies, 1991 was a tipping point. The mint was navigating the demands of mass coinage as the economy shifted, while still relying on equipment that carried the scars of the previous decade. This created a perfect storeman environment where rare oddities were born, unnoticed, in the quiet churn of metal against die. Collectors today obsess over these micro-variations. They hunt for doubled features in Lincoln's eye, ghostly distortions in the memorial columns on the reverse, faint die cracks along the rim, or that buttery softness that indicates a late-state die ready for retirement. In pristine, untouched condition, these small details elevate the coin into the realm of the extraordinary. And extraordinary coins are the ones that rewrite the rules of collecting. Imagine tracing your thumb across the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial rises from the coin's surface with solemn dignity. But perhaps the steps are slightly blurred, smoothed by a die that saw too many strikes. Or perhaps you're staring at the opposite a razor sharp, jewel-like strike from a fresh, vibrant die. Both extremes tell a story. Both extremes command desire. And in the hands of the right collector, either could be worth millions of dollars. Is why. Because rarity is not always about mintage. Sometimes it's about survival, about condition, about the story etched into the metal. Now let's step deeper into the psychology of collecting. At its core, the allure of a coin like the 1991 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is tied to a primal emotion, the fear of missed opportunity. Every collector over 45 knows the sting of the one that got away the rare Franklin $half spotted to late, the misstruck buffalo nickel that slipped through another's hands. The wheat cent that looked ordinary until the buyer realized later it was a double-die masterpiece. This 1991 piece taps into that collective memory. It's a coin that forces every seasoned collector to look backward and cringe. Because this was a common year, a common denomination, a coin that passed through cash registers, tip jars, vending machines, jacket pockets, church donation bowls. Unnoticed. Millions of Americans touched them, spent them, ignored them. One of them, sitting right now in someone's forgotten coffee tin, could be worth millions of dollars that, and that uneasy truth keeps collectors watching, searching, hoping. Let's imagine for a moment the origin story of a particularly extraordinary 1991. Moment mark 1 cent. Think of a mint worker young, tired. At the end of a long shift monitoring a press striking thousands of coins per minute, a die begins to wear. Its relief dulls ever so slightly. Protocol dictates replacement, but output demands speed. So it continues for just a little longer. A batch slips through where Lincoln's coat appears slightly softened. His bow tie loses its crisp definition, and the fields display minuscule striation signatures of a specific, fleeting moment in minting history. The press is halted, the die replaced, and the anomaly ends. That small batch enters circulation, indistinguishable to the untrained eye. One of those coins ends up in your hand 30 years later. You feel the weight of it, the history, the absolute improbability that this one coin survived unscathed. It's pristine, crisp, uncirculated, possibly struck from a misaligned die, possibly born in the exact moment the minting tool was dying. A moment frozen in metals. This is where the real collectors lean forward, because they know history favors the vigilant. But here's the twist-and element many viewers overlook until it's too late. The 1991 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is not just valuable because of the anomalies it can carry. It is valuable because of what it represents, the final breaths of traditional mass minting before digital monitoring, sensor-controlled die replacement, and hyper-consistent quality control took over. In a way, this coin is one of the last chapters of the old world colliding with the new. Think back to other legendary modern rarities. The 1980 to small date copper transition eras. The 1990 Noah's Proof Lincoln. The famous double dies that slipped into circulation against all odds. Each one is now a mythic landmark in American numismatics coins once dismissed, now regarded as lifetime-defining finds. Their value today? Often worth millions of dollars. And the collectors who discovered them weren't the wealthiest. They weren't the most experienced. They were simply the most curious. And curiosity is the ultimate edge. The 1991 issue sits quietly among them, underestimated by those who look only at mintage numbers and not at the era, the production context, or the subtle complexities of zinc-based blanketing in the early 90s. Experts know this was a delicate time for consistency. Zinc cores were notoriously finicky. Coating issues created strange surface effects. Even humidity inside the mint could alter the finish imperceptibly. All of these factors produced micro-variations that today's grading services treat with reverence. And the highest-graded survivors from this year? Those immaculate, untouched specimens sealed away before the ravages of circulation. Those were the ones that cross into unimaginable value territory. Now let's return to your imaginary coin, your potential discovery. Visualize tilting it under a bright light. Watch how the luster flows in circular waves. Does it break irregularly in spots where an over-polished die smoothed out details? Does Lincoln's profile exhibit doubling from mechanical shift? Does the reverse show a faint die crack threading across the memorial steps like a lightning bolt frozen in time? Each one of these characteristics can push the coin further into the realm of rarity, and rarity, when paired with perfect condition, is the secret ingredient behind coins worth millions of dollars. But let me ask you something I want you to actually sit with. When was the last time you checked your old coin jars? When was the last time you sifted through that drawer you haven't opened since the mid-90s? How many coins from 1991 have passed through your hands unnoticed, dismissed as ordinary? How many potential treasures slipped through before your eyes sharpened, before your instincts matured, before you knew what to look for? It's a sobering thought, and yet an exhilarating one. Because unlike other collectibles cars out, jewelry coins hide in plain sight. They wait for decades, and they wait patiently. That's the secret power of the 1981 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent. It doesn't need to be glamorous. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply needs the right collector, at the right moment, with the right ice. So here is where the story circles back to you. To your hands, your instincts, your willingness to search, because somewhere out there, perhaps in a box in your attic, perhaps in the pocket of a coat you haven't worn since the Clinton administration, one of these unassuming little discs could be waiting. A coin that carries the echoes of 1991, the last breath of an analog era, the mystery of minting imperfections, the drama of survival, and the potential to be worth millions of dollars. And if you're wondering whether the greatest treasure from this series has already been found, or whether the rarest, most valuable, most perfectly preserved specimen is still hidden in someone's forgotten change jar. Let's just say this: some discoveries rewrite history. Others are still waiting for the right pair of eyes. Which category this coin falls into depends on whether you're willing to look, and that is the real mystery of the 1991 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent.
Because to understand why this unassuming 1 cent carries such magnetic intrigue, we have to rewind, not to ancient times, not to the Great Depression, but to a strangely turbulent era for modern American coinage, the early 1990s, a period when technology was evolving faster than tradition, when the mint was balancing mass production with microscopic precision, and when even the simplest misalignment or metallurgical hiccup could spark an anomaly that would drive collectors' wild-out picture. The Philadelphia Mint in 1994, a river of copper-plated zinc blanks flowing like molten treasure, presses hammering relentlessly, dies clashing, wearing, failing, a million tiny decisions by machines, and humans shaping billions, yes, billions of coins, and buried somewhere in that ocean of copper tone. It is said that a small number of coins emerged with a quirk that defied the mint's tightest tolerances. What kind of quirk? That's where the mystery deepens. Some collectors swear it was a phantom doubling on Lincoln's profile, subtle as a shadow caught in the corner of the eye. Others speak of an anomalous strike, where the bust seems to lift forward with unusually crisp relief. There are whispers about a die state so early, so fresh, that only a handful of impressions captured its perfection, before vanishing into the grinding cycle of mass production. And the boldest claim, the one that keeps collectors searching, is the possibility of a transition mixture. A composition shift so slight that only laboratory analysis could confirm its presence. Is any of this proven? No. But that's precisely why the legend persists. Every time a collector lifts a 1990 for no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent to the light, tilting it, squinting at the curve of Lincoln's code, the sharpness of the date, the alignment of "In God We Trust," there's a spark, a hope, a thrill. because this is the kind of coin that could hide a treasure in the most unsuspected place. And think about it, isn't that the very heartbeat of numismatics? The possibility that a supermarket coin could transform into a life-altering discovery. Hold the coin in your mind now. Feel its weight 3 small grams, yet heavy with the gravity of history. Trace your thumb over Lincoln's portrait, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, still echoing the original 1909 masterwork. Examine the fields, broad, open, reflective when struck early in the D's life. Imagine, for just a moment, discovering a specimen so pristine it seems to glow from within. A coin that slipped through circulation untouched, surviving 3 decades against all odds. How many collectors have unknowingly spent such a treasure? How many priceless anomalies ended up in change machines, in donation jars, in forgotten coffee tins? There's a pattern here in numismatic history. Some of the greatest finds, those that headlines describe as worth millions of dollars, were born not from deliberate errors, but from rare chance. A dyed pair that ran for minutes instead of hours, a brief shift in pressure, a blank of unexpected composition slipping through unnoticed. And when such events happen on years with massive mintages, rarity becomes a paradox, the extraordinary hiding inside the ordinary. That is the allure of the 1990 for no benchmark Lincoln cent. But there's another layer, a psychological one. Collectors know that by the mid-1990s, America had changed. The Cold War was over. Digital technology was rising. The mint itself was modernizing. And this tiny 1 cent straddles the dividing line between the analog world and the new digital age. It is the last breath of old school mass production, before precision machinery tightened its grip on every straight dot in that transition. Imperfections, true. Collectible imperfections have become increasingly elusive. Today's coins are almost too perfect, too predictable, too uniform. But 1994, that was an era of glorious unpredictability. And so our 1 cent becomes something more than pocket change. It becomes a portal, a last chance to catch a real anomaly before modern systems made such quirks nearly impossible. A final opportunity to find a treasure forced accidentally, naturally, authentically. Now pause. Imagine you're rifling through a jar of coins just another ordinary night. Maybe you're looking for older wheat cents. Maybe you're sorting pieces for a Whitman folder. And suddenly, you see it. That familiar date, 1994, no mint mark. Your instinct is to toss it aside, but something stops you. Was it the sheen of the copper, the sharpness of the date, the faint echo of doubling on the ear or the jawline, a subtle distortion on the reverse, where the Lincoln Memorial seems to shimmer with impossible depth? Your heartbeat kicks up. You lean closer. You tilt the coin toward a lamp. That tiny thrill right there is what keeps the legend alive, because no one knows where the extraordinary coins truly are. No one knows how many have survived. No one knows whose hands they will pass through, whose eyes will recognize what the world has overlooked. And every collector secretly hopes that the next unbelievable discovery, the kind that numismatic media calls worth millions of dollars, is waiting inside their very next handful of coins. This is not about guaranteed rarity. It is about possibility. And possibility is the lifeblood of treasure hunters, Look again at the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial, clean and architectural, with the faint suggestion of Lincoln's seated statue at its heart. The lettering, United States of America, 1 cent, e pluribus unum. The geometry is precise. Yet occasionally, when early die strikes hit just right, the details appear crisp enough to cut glass. Imagine finding one of those perfectly preserved early strikes. Imagine discovering an uncirculated specimen with flawless luster, untouched by the abrasion of daily life. Imagine what happens when that coin reaches a professional grading service and receives a grade at the highest possible tier, an event so rare that, in the world of modern sense, it can transform the mundane into the magnificent. Now consider the psychology at play. Mature collectors, especially those who've spent decades refining their instincts, know that fortunes in numismatics are not built on novelty alone. They're built on obsession, on vigilance, on a careful, almost meditative attentiveness to detail. And nothing demands attention like a date you think you already know. No mint mark, Philadelphia. But the mature collector asks, which die produced this one? Which moment in the mint's relentless machinery gave birth to this particular strike? What anomalies or secrets could be lurking beneath its familiar copper surface? The more common the coin appears, the more thrilling the hunt becomes. And that brings us to the quiet truth that few collectors openly admit. The ordinary year Lincoln cents are often the last place anyone thinks to search, which makes them the perfect hiding place for rare anomalies. History has proven this time and again. The most astonishing numismatic discoveries often surface, not from rare date coins, but from overlooked issues. Coins that seem to come into matter until someone with sharp eyes and relentless curiosity looked again. When those stories break, they rock the collecting world, and suddenly, the coin everyone ignored becomes the coin everyone hunts. So here's the question no collector can resist. Could the next great American coin discovery one that captures headlines, ignites bidding wars, and ends up worth millions of dollars actually be a 1990 for no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent, pulled from circulation by an ordinary person on an ordinary day? And if that's even remotely possible, why not you? Imagine the interviews, the astonished experts, the newspaper articles calling you the finder of a once-in-a-generation anomaly. Imagine placing that unassuming 1 cent into an auction where the world suddenly realizes what you've discovered. Imagine watching collectors, investors, and institutions compete for the privilege of owning something that was hiding under everyone's nose. That is the dream that fuels the legend, and legends in numismatics have a strange habit of becoming reality when least expected. So the next time your fingertips brush across a handful of change, pause, look closer, pay attention to the dates, to the surfaces, to the subtleties that most people will never notice. The treasure hunters of the past left maps. The treasure hunters of today read coins dot and somewhere, maybe in your home right now, maybe in a forgotten coffee tin, maybe in a dusty jar in the garage. A 1990 for Philadelphia Abraham Lincoln 1 cent, an unremarkable coin with an unremarkable appearance, is waiting for the one person willing to look deeper dot, and when you finally find it, well, that might just be the moment everything changes. because legends choose their discoverers carefully. And the next legendary coin, yes, even one worth millions of dollars, might be no farther away than the next time you empty your pockets. But here's the twist. The final secret collectors rarely admit. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries aren't the rare coins themselves, but the eyes trained well enough to see what others miss. And the question you must answer is simple. Are your eyes ready? ChatGPT said, in the quiet corner of America, somewhere between the echo of a grandfather's workshop and the silent drawer where old change sleeps, there exists a single Abraham Lincoln 1 cent that defies every expectation. A 2000 to no mint-mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent ordinary on the surface, but possessing a secret that collectors whisper about like a hidden chapter in our numismatic mythology. And tonight, we're going to open that chapter. Because if you've ever wondered whether something so small, so innocently familiar, could still shake the foundations of the collecting world, you're about to find out. Imagine holding the coin in your hand for the very first time. It feels light, familiar, almost insignificant. But as your eyes adjust to the warm copper tone, something unusual emerges. No, Denver D. No San Francisco S. Not even the quiet, unobtrusive P of the Philadelphia Mint. Nothing at all. Just the unmarked face of Lincoln staring forward as if he, too, understands the weight of the mystery pressed into the metal. And suddenly the question strikes. How could a coin made in a year of mass production, a year of countless minted cents, end up carrying no mint mark at all? This is where the story begins to tighten its grip. The year 2000 sits just beyond the turn of the millennium, a time when America was redefining itself. Technology was racing forward. The world felt newly vulnerable. Our pockets jingled with coins that didn't yet feel old, but weren't quite new. The United States Mint was deep into its modern era of precision, automation, and efficiency. Errors weren't supposed to happen. Not anymore. Not like they did in the early 20th century, when human hands and analog machinery left the door open for miracles. And yet, one slipped through. The 2000 to no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is a reminder that even in an age of impossibility, the impossible can still appear. Was it a die problem? A blanket mix-up? A fleeting lapse in quality control? Or was it something more, something that collectors, even after decades of study, still debate in quiet conversations at coin shows and private gatherings? Hold that thought, because before we peel back the layers of rarity and legend, we need to ground ourselves in the coin's physical beauty, something that too many collectors overlook in their chase for anomalies and premiums. Tilt the coin just slightly, and the first beam of light slides across the sharp, unmistakable profile of Abraham Lincoln. The engraving is crisp, modern, and confident. This portrait, crafted by sculptor Victor David Brenner, has survived more than a century of American history. Wars, depressions, recessions, celebrations, reinventions, and through it all, Lincoln remains unchanged, his gaze steady, his expression carved with an almost prophetic calm. On the reverse, the venerable Lincoln Memorial stands solid and symmetrical, its columns representing not just architecture, but ideals, unity, resilience, the promise of better days. Look closely enough, and between those columns you see a small seated figure, the portrait of Lincoln inside his own memorial, a detail so fine that new collectors rarely notice it without magnification. It's a deceptively elegant design, full of depth and nuance, reminding us that even common coins are miniature canvases of national identity. But this coin, this 2000 to no mint mark specimen, carries an entirely different aura. It's almost as if the absence of that tiny mint letter transforms the familiar into the extraordinary. Suddenly, the coin feels like it escaped something, as if it was never meant to exist. And yet here it is. Collectors often talk about anomalies as if they're glitches in the matrix, brief, unpredictable events where randomness takes control. But anomalies aren't just mistakes. They're opportunities. They're stories. They're moments where history bends just a little and creates something that shouldn't have been but now demands our full attention. And this brings us to the question that keeps collectors awake at night. How does something that looks so ordinary carry the potential to become worth millions of dollars? Because despite what price guides say, despite what markets claim, despite what cold logic dictates, there's a deeper truth in the collecting world. Value isn't just a function of scarcity. It's a function of desire, of narrative, of myth. Think of the world's most valuable coins. Many of them were never supposed to exist. The 1933 double eagles, the 1913 Liberty nickels, the error prints, the misstrikes, the freak accidents of the minting universe. They became legends not because of what they are, but because of what they represent. A crack in reality, a moment where chance created something that collectors would chase for generations. The 2000 to no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent follows this lineage of quiet rebellion. Picture an elderly collector, someone who has spent decades building sets, attending auctions, traveling from small town shows to national conventions. Someone who has held the rarest of rare pieces. Now picture the expression on his face when he discovers this anomaly in a box of coins he nearly forgot about. His hands stop trembling, not from age, but from awe, because in that moment, he realizes he may be holding a story only a handful of people on Earth will ever truly understand. And here is where the imagination begins to wander. Where did this coin travel? How many pockets did it pass through unnoticed? Was it tucked into a child's piggy bank? Resting in the cash register of a small town diner? Sitting in the jar on the shelf of someone who never once considered the possibility that a small, unassuming 1 cent could hold the power to reshape a collection? It's almost poetic how the rarest treasures hide in plain sight. Now, let's deepen the mystery. Some collectors believe anomalies like this originate from transitional processes. When the mint shifts between dyes, compositions, or production sequences, others suspect intentional test strikes that somehow escaped. Still others speculate about quiet experimental phases the public was never informed about. Tiny batches that accidentally slipped into circulation. Which theory is correct? That's the cliffhanger. That's the part no one can definitively answer. And that unanswerable question adds value immeasurable, almost mythic value. And here's the twist you may not expect. Sometimes, what drives a coin's worth into the realm of millions of dollars isn't an official designation. It's the appetite of the collector who encounters it. A wealthy private buyer, a lifelong numismatist, A museum curator hungry for something rare. Someone who decides, in a single instant, that owning this anomaly means owning a piece of modern American numismatic legend. Because when to collectors want the same impossible object, logic disappears. Only desire remains. And this raises another question, one I want you to sit with. What if the coin is still out there? What if the finest example, the one perfectly preserved, the one capable of rewriting the narrative of modern minting, is sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten tin in someone's home right now? Could it be yours? This is where the emotional power of collecting reveals itself. The thrill isn't just in ownership, it's in the chase. The possibility, the whisper that, at any moment, you might uncover something no one else has ever seen. And that is why this 2000 to no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent matters. Because it represents hope. Not the naive hope of wishful thinking, but the seasoned, mature hope that only true collectors understand. The hope that even in an era of perfection, imperfection still slips through. That even in a world of mass production, uniqueness still emerges. That even in a time when everything feels digital, predictable, and automated, the mint can still surprise us. But here's the final layer of intrigue. A thought that might change the way you look at every coin from this moment on. What if anomalies like this aren't just mistakes? What if they're signals? Signals that somewhere inside the vast machinery of the US Mint, human hands, human decisions, and human oversight still matter. Signals that even now, in an age of laser-guided precision, accidents happen. Signals that the world of coin collecting is far from finished producing legends. And perhaps the greatest secret of all, the one collectors rarely speak aloud, is that the biggest discoveries aren't made by institutions. They're made by individuals. Someone quietly sifting through their change. Someone inspecting a roll under a kitchen lamp. Someone who decides, on a random evening, to pull out their magnifier and look just a little closer. Maybe even someone watching this film right now. So here's the question I leave you with, your final cliffhanger. Your lingering spark. If a 2000 to no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent can slip into existence without warning, what else has slipped through that no one has found yet? And more importantly, will you be the one to find it? Because the next legendary coin, the next accidental masterpiece, the next anomaly whispered about in collector circles for decades to come, might already be in your possession, quietly waiting for you to notice the story hidden in its metal. Hold it in your mind's eye for a moment, the warm copper glow, the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, and beneath it all, the subtle, unassuming D that marks its origin at the Denver Mint. This coin does not shout. It does not boast. It whispers, and those whispers have drawn in seasoned collectors, sharp investors, and dreamers alike, all wondering the same thing. How could something so common hold the potential to be worth millions of dollars? Strange as it sounds, rarity does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind routine. And 2006 was a year of routine. Billions of Abraham Lincoln 1 cents flowed from the Denver mints, each one intended to vanish into pockets, car consoles, and cash registers. But as every experienced collector knows, The process of minting, though precise, is never flawless, and it is within those minute imperfections, those accidental quirks in metal and machinery, that true fortune is born. Imagine the path of this particular 1 cent, a blank blanket, perfectly smooth and unsuspecting, slides into position under the weight of the press. The dies descend with tremendous force, striking, shaping, imprinting history itself. Lincoln emerges with sharp detail. The mottos rise like miniature sculptures, and the Denver mint mark takes its position like a signature on the timeless canvas. But sometimes, just sometimes, the machinery hesitates. A die shifts. A blanket misaligns. A tiny flaw becomes immortalized in copper, and the coin becomes something else entirely. Collectors call these pieces anomalies, outliers, miracles. They are the coins that don't just enter the market, they haunt it. They spark rumors, fuel bidding wars, keep experts awake at night, wondering whether another undiscovered specimen is still hiding somewhere, waiting for the right pair of hands to uncover it. The 2006 D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent belongs to this realm of possibility, not because every coin from that year is rare, far from it, but because among them exists variations so subtle, so unexpected, that to the untrained eye they appear invisible. And yet, to those who recognize their significance, they become treasure. Tiny copper windows into the soul of the minting process. Close your eyes for a moment and picture running your thumb across the coin's surface. The raised lettering of "In God We Trust" feels crisp, resolute. The phrase "Liberty" sits to the left, exactly where it has since 1909, beneath Lincoln's profile. The date 2006 marks the coin's temporal identity, while the small d anchors it geographically to the Denver mints. Everything is exactly as it should be, which is precisely why collectors obsess over what might be different. A double date, a misaligned die, a die crack tracing a hairline fracture across Lincoln's silhouette, a weak strike that softens the president's jawline, a mint mark punched slightly off-center, creating a subtle but powerful divergence from the norm. Any of these features, any of them, could elevate a mundane coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And here's the truth seasoned collectors rarely say aloud. The thrill isn't just in finding such a coin. It's in knowing you're holding a piece of America's industrial heartbeat, a fragment of history, a survivor of chance, a symbol of the strange alchemy that transforms everyday things into priceless artifacts. It's the same thrill that keeps collectors searching through jars, boxes, rolls, and old cigar tins long after midnight, chasing that electric moment when the world tilts and an unassuming 1 cent becomes a doorway to legacy. But the story of the 2006 D. Abraham Lincoln 1 cent goes deeper than errors or varieties. To understand its mystique, we have to step back to the larger narrative of Lincoln's portrait, the Denver Mint's role, and America's enduring fascination with copper coinage. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the 1 cent in 1909, the centennial of his birth. At the time, no U.S. coin had ever featured a real person. The decision shocked traditionalists, enchanted the public, and set a new standard for numismatic artistry. Over a century later, that iconic profile still commands reverence. Every 1 cent that bears his likeness carries a piece of that legacy, a thread connecting past to present. By 2006, The Denver Mint had perfected an industrial ballet capable of striking coins at a staggering pace. Yet, even within this symphony of machinery and precision, anomalies slipped through. And it is these irregularities born from the very heart of America's minting infrastructure that give the 2060 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent its magnetic allure. Collectors know that Denver Mint issues from the MID 2000 sometimes display subtle quirks. A worn die here, a misaligned collar there. Production volumes were immense, and with immense output comes heightened opportunity for variation. When these variations align just right, they can lift a coin's value into the realm of legend. Some specimens have been whispered about among collectors' coins, whose striking anomalies were so vivid, so unexpected, they were said to be worth millions of dollars, transforming a simple copper-clad artifact into a numismatic lightning bolt. And that begs the question, how many more remain hidden? Perhaps one sits right now in a forgotten family jar, waiting for someone to dust off the lid. Maybe another sleeps inside an old roll of bank-wrapped change sealed to decades ago. Maybe your coin, yes. The one you're thinking about right now contains a detail no one has ever noticed. The tiniest die crack, a subtle spread in the lettering, a mint mark shaped by an imperfect punch, resting just a fraction outside its intended alignment. This is where the emotional power of collecting truly reveals itself. It isn't about hoarding metal. It isn't about cataloging dates. It's about possibility. The possibility that the next coin you touch could change everything. That it could carry a story older than you, tied to a process bigger than any single collector. That it could outlast you, becoming a treasured heirloom passed from one generation to the next. The 2060 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is a perfect vehicle for that possibility. It's modern enough to feel accessible, yet old enough to stir nostalgia. It carries the gravitas of Lincoln's portrait and the intrigue of Denver's minting history. It blends familiarity with mystery, an irresistible combination for collectors who crave the thrill of discovery. Consider, for a moment, the psychology of rarity. Humans aren't drawn to what is plentiful. We are drawn to what almost wasn't. The coin that slipped through unnoticed. The specimen that survived by accident. The artifact that no one thought to preserve until it was too late. When you hold a coin like that, you're not just holding metal, you're holding a mistake that became a miracle. And that leads to the uncomfortable, exhilarating truth behind this coin. We don't know how many extraordinary specimens from 2006 actually exist. No one does. The Mint doesn't catalog errors. Collectors rarely publicize their greatest finds, and the most valuable coins often vanish into private collections, sealed in dark vaults or airtight safes, whispered about but never seen. This uncertainty is what keeps the hunt alive. It's why collectors continue searching year after year, long after the rest of the world has traded coins for cards, cards for apps, and apps for digital wallets. There is something primal about holding a physical object with hidden value, something that taps into the human instinct to seek, to discover, to claim. The 2060 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent is not rare because of its mintage. It's rare because of its potential, because of what might exist among the billions, because of what a train I could uncover where others see nothing at all. And if you're watching this, You already know the truth. Collectors don't chase coins. They chase meaning. They chase stories. They chase the hope that somewhere, hidden in the chaos of circulation, lies a miracle meant for them. So imagine, for a moment, that you hold such a coin. Imagine turning it under the light, the copper warming in your palm. Imagine spotting a detail no one else saw, a slight distortion in the date, a mint mark sitting just a breath too high, a trace of doubling on Lincoln's eyelid. That instant, that heartbeat of realization, is what turns collectors into legends. That moment is why fortunes are made. And here's the twist. The part most people never consider. The greatest discoveries aren't always in uncirculated rolls or pristine collections. Sometimes they're hiding in the most ordinary places. A desk drawer, a childhood coin jar, a forgotten envelope tucked between old photographs. The universe doesn't care where treasure hides. It only cares who is bold enough to look. The 2060 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent invites you to look, to search, to trust your instincts. Because what separates the casual observer from the true collector is simple. The observer sees a coin, the collector sees potential. And the potential here hidden within the copper glow of a coin minted nearly 2 decades ago is staggering. The right variation could be worth millions of dollars. The right error could rewrite a collector's future. The right discovery could place your name among those who found the extraordinary in the ordinary. The story of this coin isn't finished. It hasn't even begun. Because its next chapter belongs to the person who finds the next anomaly, the next breathtaking flaw, the next hidden treasure buried in plain sight. And here's the real question, the one that lingers long after the lights fade and the narration ends. What if that person is you?
Did you know that a single penny sitting quietly in your wallet could be worth almost $1 million? I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about a coin so rare, so misunderstood, that most people have unknowingly spent it without a second thought, until now. Imagine holding in your hand something that could transform your financial future, protect your family, and give you a level of freedom most only dream about. And yet, it's just a penny. Meet Tom, an ordinary retiree from Ohio. Last year, while cleaning out an old drawer, he came across a small, copper coin he thought was worth nothing. It was scratched, worn, nothing spectacular, just a 1976 Lincoln cent with a faint D mint mark. But something about it made him pause. On a whim, he took it to a local coin shop. The look on the dealer's face? Priceless. That 1 penny, seemingly ordinary, was actually a rare variant that collectors have chased for decades. That moment, when Tom realized the coin in his hand could be worth tens of thousands of dollars, changed his life forever. But here's where it gets even more interesting. What most people don't know is that among 1976 pennies, the ones minted in Denver, the D mint mark, carry a hidden story. In the mid-1970s, the United States Mint was experimenting with small production quirks, and some 1976 D pennies were struck with tiny variations and errors that make them extraordinarily valuable today. And then there's the absolute crown jewel, the ultra-rare examples that top the market at nearly $1 million. Yes, you heard that right, $966,000 for a single Lincoln cent. So what makes these pennies so valuable? First, the mint mark. D for Denver is critical, but it's not just that. Experts look for specific strike details, unusual die variations, and even slight differences in the copper alloy. And then there's condition. A circulated penny. It could be worth a few $100s. A pristine, high-grade specimen. That's where the magic happens, the kind of magic that can turn a dusty drawer coin into a life-changing fortune. And here's the part that shocks collectors. Many of these coins have minor errors that actually boost their value exponentially. From doubled dies to off-center strikes, each mistake is a signature of rarity, a secret code the mint left behind. These errors aren't flaws, they're golden tickets. And collectors will pay, without hesitation, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, for them. Now, let me tell you about the most jaw-dropping examples. Imagine a coin that would sell for $1 in your local store but, in perfect condition with a rare die error, could fetch $50,000. Or one graded by a professional service, perfectly preserved, fetching close to $1 million at auction. That's the reality of the 1976 D Lincoln penny. And it's not just numbers, it's the thrill of discovery, the chance to uncover something everyone else overlooked. But here's a question for you. How many pennies have you spent over the years without even thinking? That's exactly what makes this coin so powerful. Hidden in pocket change, old jars, or forgotten drawers, it could be waiting for you right now. And while some collectors are already cashing in on this goldmine, others are still missing the opportunity. Don't let that be you. So how do you identify one of these treasures? Look closely at the mint mark. It should be a crisp D for Denver. Examine the strike. Is it clean, or are there anomalies? Check the edges, the copper color, the wear. And if you think you found a gem, have it professionally graded. Condition is king, and even minor imperfections or scratches can make or break the final value. Circulated coins might sell for hundreds, but high-grade, error-struck pennies? That's where you see the $50,000 to $966,000 numbers come alive. And here's a little secret most people don't know. Sometimes, the rarest coins aren't locked away in grand collections, they're in your hands right now, disguised as everyday change. And the truth is, time is not on your side. Every coin spent, every penny tossed, could be the one that might have changed everything. So here's your moment. Check your old jars, wallets, and drawers. Look at every 1976 penny carefully. Look for the D mint mark, the subtle strikes, the tiny variations. And when you find it, don't rush, get it appraised by a professional. This isn't just about money. It's about freedom, security, and the chance to take control of your family's financial future, because in a world where most people overlook the pennies in their pocket, there are those who see opportunity. Those who find the rare, the overlooked, the extraordinary. And when that penny shows up in your hand, it could be your ticket to a life you've always dreamed about. So don't wait. Don't dismiss that small, copper coin in your drawer as insignificant. It could be your key to a future most people only imagine. And remember, while these opportunities are rare, the rewards are real. Check your change. Examine your drawers. Look at those pennies closely. Because the 1976 D Lincoln penny is more than a coin, it's a legacy, a fortune, and the possibility of a life-changing discovery. And if you think that sounds too good to be true, just wait until you see what collectors are paying for these coins today. your treasure could be hiding in plain sight, and the next life-changing penny might be just a glance away. Did you know that a single penny, sitting unnoticed in a jar or hiding in your couch cushions, could be worth nearly $1 million? I'm not exaggerating. One tiny coin, overlooked by most Americans, has quietly become one of the rarest and most coveted treasures in modern U.S. coin collecting, the 1989 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. And if you have one in your collection, or even tucked away in your change, it could change your financial life forever. Let me tell you a story. Meet Jim. Jim was an ordinary retiree, the kind of guy who kept every coin he received over the years. One rainy afternoon, he decided to sort through a box of old pennies he'd been saving since the 1980s. Most were worth a few cents, some a few dollars, but then, something caught his eye. Among the familiar copper tones, one penny looked slightly different. It didn't have the usual D or S mint mark. His heart raced. Jim didn't know it yet, but he had just stumbled upon a coin that could secure his family's future. So, what makes this penny so rare? The 1989 Lincoln 1-cent was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Typically, every Philadelphia coin carries no mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco coins are marked D or S. But in a very limited production run, a handful of pennies escaped the mint without the correct marks. These coins, known as the no mint mark variety, are extremely scarce. Out of millions of pennies minted in 1989, only a few hundred are believed to exist today. That's not just rare, it's legendary in coin collecting circles, but here's where it gets even more interesting. Collectors and investors alike prize this penny not just for its scarcity, but for its story. Imagine owning something so few people will ever see, a coin that quietly carries the power to transform lives. And the value? Well, it depends on the condition. A circulated coin might fetch a few $1,000s. A high-grade, perfectly preserved example. It could be worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes reaching an astonishing $961,000 on the open market. That's right. Almost $1 million for a coin you might have spent on a parking meter. So how can you identify one of these rare pennies? It takes a trained eye. First, check for the absence of a mint mark. Then, look at the strike quality, the edges, the clarity of Lincoln's profile, and the overall detail. Many collectors also consider errors, unusual toning, or die variations that make a particular coin even more valuable. Professional grading from trusted services can elevate a coin's worth dramatically, turning a forgotten penny into a nearly priceless artifact. What most people don't realize is that mistakes like these happen rarely, and that rarity drives demand. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for the perfect specimen, because in the world of coin collecting, perfection isn't just beauty, it's security, freedom, and wealth all wrapped into one small copper disc. Now, here's the part that shocks collectors. Even circulated examples, those worn and faded from decades of use, can still fetch thousands of dollars. And while most people toss their old pennies without a second thought, a single trip through a coin jar or a dusty drawer could reveal a fortune hiding in plain sight. Imagine holding that coin in your hand, knowing it could fund your retirement, pay off debts, or even secure your children's future. It's more than money, it's peace of mind. It's the kind of opportunity that doesn't come along twice in a lifetime, but don't think this is just a dream. Jim, the retiree I mentioned earlier, took his penny to an auction house. Experts authenticated it, graded it, and the result? Over $275,000. He was stunned. From a forgotten collection to a life-changing payout in just a matter of days. That's the power of rare coins, and the 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is at the very top of that list. And here's a question for you. How many coins have you ignored in your own home? How many jars, drawers, or wallets could be hiding something equally extraordinary? Don't wait for a second chance. Time is never on your side when it comes to rarity. Every penny spent unknowingly could be one you'll regret forever. So, how should you check your coins? Start simple, sort through your pennies, look closely for the absence of a mint mark, and note the condition. If something seems unusual, don't dismiss it, have it examined by a professional. Even a single high-grade coin could elevate your financial security beyond what most people imagine. Let's talk numbers one last time. Circulated coins can sell for $2,000 to $5,000. Uncirculated or high-grade examples may range from $20,000 to over $900,000. That's the difference between everyday change and life-changing wealth. And in a world where financial security feels increasingly uncertain, a rare coin like this is more than a collectible, it's a shield, a ticket, a literal embodiment of freedom. So here's the takeaway: don't let your coins gather dust. Don't let your fortune slip through your fingers. The 1989 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark isn't just a coin, it's an opportunity. And the opportunity is fleeting, because collectors and investors are watching, and the market waits for no one. Imagine the excitement of discovery, the thrill of holding a piece of history worth hundreds of thousands, and the relief of knowing you secured a legacy for yourself and your family. That could be you, but only if you check, only if you act, and only if you recognize what's truly valuable when you see it. So, dig through that jar. Examine your old change. One coin could make all the difference. And if you want to uncover more stories of hidden treasures in ordinary coins, explore our collection of rare coin videos. You never know when the next life-changing discovery is hiding in plain sight. Time is ticking, and every penny matters. Imagine this: you're cleaning out an old drawer, or maybe counting coins from your change jar, and you spot a penny that looks normal, ordinary. But something in your gut tells you to double-check. You take a closer look, and suddenly, your life changes forever. This is what happened to a man in Ohio who found one of these rare 1994 no-mint mark pennies at a garage sale. He spent 5 minutes inspecting it under a magnifying glass, and hours later, he learned it was worth more than his house. So what makes this penny so special? Why would a coin most people overlook fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars? The story starts with the U.S. Mint in 1994. That year, nearly 7 billion Lincoln pennies were produced. Most carried the familiar D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. But a handful emerged with no mint mark at all, coins that technically should not exist. This small anomaly, a simple absence, created one of the most sought-after modern rarities in American coin collecting, and here's where it gets even more interesting: it's not just the missing mint mark. Some of these pennies also carry subtle strike errors, doubling, or faint die variations. Collectors look for precise details: the depth of the strike, the crispness of Lincoln's profile, even tiny scratches, or the complete lack of them. And that's what separates a coin worth a few $1,000s from one that can sell for nearly $1 million. But let's pause for a moment. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. And you're right to be cautious. Not every 1994 penny without a mint mark is a treasure. Condition matters. Circulated coins, those that have been in your pocket for decades, might fetch a few $1,000s. But the high-end, perfectly preserved examples, professionally graded MS-66, MS-67, or even higher, can reach staggering prices. In fact, the current market record sits around $952,000. That's right, one penny, nearly $1 million. Now, here's a question most people don't consider: could you be holding one right now? That loose change in your car console, the jar under the couch, even coins hiding in old piggy banks, it could be hiding this rare penny. The fear of missing out is real. And if you don't check, you might literally spend a small fortune without even realizing it. Let's talk about the turning point that transforms ordinary collectors into overnight legends. Our Ohio collector did everything right. He knew what to look for, he understood grading, and he consulted reputable experts. When the authentication came back, the value was jaw-dropping. That single coin instantly became the cornerstone of his financial freedom. He could have held on to it for decades, or sold it and used the proceeds to secure his family's future, invest, or even buy his dream home. And here's the part that shocks collectors: the rarity of these coins is so high that even seasoned numismatists scramble to add them to their collections. Only a tiny fraction of the 1994 penny production was struck without a mint mark, and an even smaller fraction survived in pristine condition. Scarcity, perfection, and historical significance, all the ingredients for astronomical value. So how do you know if your penny is one of these treasures? First, check the mint mark. A 1994 penny from Philadelphia should have a P. If there's none, that's your first red flag. Then examine the coin under magnification. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's bust, the smoothness of the fields, and the absence of wear. And if it's flawless, professionally grading it can turn a mere guess into concrete, verifiable value. But don't wait. The market is moving fast, and collectors are hunting these coins aggressively. Prices have skyrocketed in recent years, and the competition is fierce. That quiet little coin in your pocket or your jar could disappear before you even get the chance to have it authenticated. The opportunity is real, and it won't last forever. Now, imagine the emotional roller coaster. One moment, it's just spare change. The next, it's a life-changing asset that could provide security, freedom, and wealth for you and your family. That's the power of knowing your coins. That's the power of the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. And here's a little secret: this isn't just about money. It's about control. It's about waking up one day and realizing that something you overlooked could redefine your future. The excitement, the thrill, the security, it all comes from one simple action: checking your coins before you spend them. So, ask yourself this: when was the last time you looked through that old change? Could there be a hidden fortune waiting? This is your moment. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Because history has shown us that ordinary people, who simply took the time to notice, found extraordinary wealth hidden in the most unexpected places. And if you want to dive even deeper into the world of rare coins, to uncover more modern treasures that could transform your life, you won't want to miss what's next. Every coin tells a story, and your story could start with just one small, seemingly ordinary penny. Check your jars, check your drawers, and check your hearts, because the opportunity is real, and it's waiting. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered, could this tiny, ordinary piece of metal actually be worth more than your car? What if I told you that some pennies sitting quietly in your drawer could make you richer than you ever imagined, almost overnight? Today, we're diving into one of the most astonishing coin stories in American history, the 2002 Lincoln 1 cent, with no mint mark. Yes, a single penny, potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's hiding in plain sight. Imagine this. A middle-aged teacher, just like any of us, sifting through loose change while cleaning out his old desk drawer. He finds a penny that looks normal at first glance. But when he flips it over, his heart skips a beat. Something about it feels different. Could this ordinary coin be the key to a life-changing fortune? That moment of discovery, the instant he realizes this is no ordinary penny, sets the stage for an incredible journey. And what he found next would shock him, and could shock you too. So, what exactly makes the 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable? For starters, in 2002, the Philadelphia Mint, where most pennies are struck, rarely failed to mark its coins with the familiar P. But a small number somehow slipped through without a mint mark. These are called Philadelphia no mint mark errors. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Unlike common pennies, these anomalies are exceedingly rare. We're talking a handful of known examples that have surfaced among billions of coins produced. What most people don't know is that the coin's value isn't just about the missing P. Experts look at the strike, the condition, the detail in Lincoln's profile, and even microscopic die cracks or imperfections. A circulated coin might be worth a few $100s. But a pristine, high-grade version? That's when the numbers start getting jaw-dropping. Some of these rare 2002 no mint mark pennies have sold at auction for over $900,000. That's not a typo. $944,000 for a single cent. Imagine what that could do for your family, your home, or finally living the life you've always dreamed of. But here's the cliffhanger. How do you know if your penny is one of these rare treasures? First, look at the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. Second, check for the sharpness of the design. The finer the detail on Lincoln's face, the higher the value. Then, the condition. Uncirculated coins with no scratches, no discoloration, and full strike detail are the ones commanding the top prices. And finally, professional grading can turn an otherwise unassuming penny into a certified masterpiece that collectors fight over. Let me tell you a story that perfectly captures the thrill. A retiree from Ohio was cleaning out his old coin jars when he noticed a penny with no mint mark. Skeptical at first, he submitted it to a professional grading service. Weeks later, the results came back. It was a near-perfect example, one of the rarest known. He listed it at auction. The winning bid? $315,000. A lifetime of quiet savings transformed into a sum that could secure generations. And he almost threw it away. Imagine, almost tossing away hundreds of thousands of dollars in a coin jar. That thought alone should make you grab your old change right now, and this is the part that shocks collectors. These pennies aren't just valuable because they're rare. They're a perfect storm of history, human error, and collector obsession. Every detail matters. The angle of Lincoln's nose, the spacing between letters, even the tiniest die crack can multiply its value exponentially. Some of the most sought-after examples have been described as once-in-a-lifetime coins, because they appear so rarely, and when they do, the market goes wild. Now, you might be thinking, sure, that's interesting, but it probably won't happen to me. But here's the truth, thousands of these pennies were minted, and many still sit in old coin rolls, jars, or drawers across the country. Your chance isn't gone, it's right here, in your own home. And the clock is ticking. Collectors and investors are actively searching for these coins, and the demand continues to skyrocket. Waiting too long could mean watching a potential fortune slip through your fingers. Let's break down the numbers. A circulated 2002 no-mint mark penny might sell for $200 to $500, already an incredible return for a single-cent mid-grade coins, lightly circulated with minor imperfections, can range from $1,500 to $10,000. And then there are the uncirculated, professionally graded gems, the Holy Grail. These are the coins that can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars, with the current top market value recorded around $944,000. Yes, a coin you could literally find in your pocket or piggy bank today, and here's a little secret most people don't talk about: these coins are more than collectibles, they're financial security. In uncertain times, having a rare, tangible asset like this penny could be a literal lifeline. It's not just wealth, it's freedom. Freedom to retire early, travel, give your children opportunities, or simply sleep peacefully knowing your family is protected. So, what should you do right now? Don't wait. Pull out those old jars, those dusty coin rolls from your dresser, your attic, even that coin cup on the counter. Every 2002 penny deserves a second look. Inspect them closely. And if one seems unusual, get it professionally evaluated. The difference between an ordinary penny and a six-figure treasure could be microscopic, but the rewards are monumental. Before we wrap up, ask yourself, are you going to let these hidden fortunes pass by unnoticed? Or will you take a moment, dig through your old change, and potentially change your financial future forever? The opportunity won't last forever. Collectors are hunting, auctions are soaring, and history shows that coins like this often vanish before most people even read. A regular guy named Tom, cleaning out his old coin jar one lazy Sunday, casually flips over a penny and freezes. Something about it just doesn't look right. It's shiny, perfectly struck, and that little D mark, or rather, the lack of one, makes his heart skip a beat. He pulls out his phone, does a quick search, and what he reads stops him cold. This penny, the one he had thought was just spare change, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. In that moment, Tom's life changed forever, but here's where it gets even more interesting. What makes the 2007 Lincoln penny so special? To understand, we have to go back to the United States Mint, the place where billions of coins are produced every year. Most pennies are routine, stamped, struck, and sent off to circulation. But sometimes, mistakes happen. Tiny, almost invisible anomalies that make a coin extraordinarily rare. And in 2007, something incredible happened at the Denver Mint. Collectors call it the D-Mint mark penny mystery. The 2007 D, in certain cases, came out with either errors, double strikes, or even missing mint marks. Most people never notice them, thinking it's just an ordinary penny. But experts know better. They look for precision, the strike quality, the placement of the mint mark, the condition of the coin's copper surface, even microscopic die flaws. And if your penny hits all the right notes, you could be holding a ticket to unimaginable wealth. What most people don't realize is how the market responds to these anomalies. Circulated examples might sell for a few $100s, which is already more than 99% of coins in circulation. But a perfectly preserved, high-grade 2007 D-era coin. That's where the magic happens. Graded by professionals as MS-67, MS-68, or higher, some have sold for hundreds of thousands. The current top market value? Around $936,000. Imagine finding a coin in your pocket worth nearly $1 million, almost like winning a lottery you didn't even know you entered. And here's the part that shocks collectors: there are still coins out there, hiding in old jars, under couch cushions, or even in change from the grocery store. Everyday Americans have unknowingly owned fortunes for decades. The question is, do you know if you're one of them? Now let's talk about how to identify this rare penny. Start with the mint mark, or sometimes, the lack of it. Some 2007 D pennies show missing or misplaced mint marks, while others have doubled dies. The strike should be crisp, and the coin's surface smooth and unblemished. Grading is critical. Experts assign numerical values from 1 to 70, with anything above 65 considered top tier. Even small scratches or wear can dramatically affect value. And this is why some coins skyrocket to near seven-figure prices, because rarity plus perfection equals extraordinary collector demand. Think about it like this: every penny is a tiny piece of history. But these rare ones are more than history, they are financial freedom disguised as everyday change. They can protect your family's future, give you opportunities to travel the world, invest in your dreams, or simply live without worry. And unlike a risky stock or a fleeting trend, a rare coin holds intrinsic, tangible value that only grows as time goes on. Let me give you a real-world example. A man named Richard was cleaning out a box of pennies he had kept since childhood. He noticed one penny looked off. Curious, he submitted it to a grading company. Weeks later, Richard held in his hands a 2007 D penny graded MS-68, valued at over $200,000. The moment of discovery had been life-changing. He went from ordinary savings to a future secured, just from a coin most people would have spent without a second thought. But don't make the mistake of assuming it's easy to find these pennies. The key is urgency. Every day, coins are spent, lost, or tucked away, disappearing into the millions of ordinary coins. If you don't check your own collection now, you could miss your chance to find a fortune hiding in plain sight. Here's a bold question: what if the next coin you pick up at the grocery store or pull from a forgotten jar is the one that changes your life? Could it be that single 2007 D Lincoln penny waiting for you? Maybe it's just a penny to someone else, but to you, it could be freedom, wealth, and security all wrapped in a tiny copper disc. And that's the beauty of collecting rare coins. It's a treasure hunt where the prize isn't just money, it's opportunity, it's hope, it's the power to protect and elevate your family's future. Every coin you check could be the one that rewrites your story. Every glance at old pennies in your drawer could reveal a hidden gem worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So here's the takeaway: don't wait. Don't dismiss the pennies in your jar. Don't assume your change is worthless. Examine them. Look for the 2007 D, study the mint marks, the strike, the surface. Consider professional grading. And remember, this is a rare opportunity that won't last forever. Fortune favors the prepared, and maybe, just maybe, the next 2070 penny you find will be the one that changes everything. That if this idea excites you, imagine what other rare coins might be waiting, quietly hidden, ready to turn your everyday life into something extraordinary. Start checking your coins today, because the next incredible discovery could be just a penny away.